do y'all think there will be pro models this time? And that's the thing that I was gonna say. Like as far as like Xbox Series S, like eventually the answer is gonna be like, hey man, buy a Series X, or potentially if there's a pro model out by then, you can buy a pro model. And so like, do y'all think that there will be a pro model this gen, like an Xbox? What was it? The Xbox One X? I don't know
Yeah.
how they would. I don't
It's
know what
like
the
the
naming.
the One S, I think,
No,
wasn't
no,
it?
no. The One S was like the cheap version, and then the One S was like the slim,
Okay.
and the One X was like the more expensive
Right.
cog diesel Xbox One.
See,
Like that's what that was.
okay, let me just say this real quick. Anyone who
Oh,
thinks that like I'm a Sony fanboy or any of us on here is a Sony fanboy when we keep saying like the PS4, PS3 generation, it's like, look, Sony made it easy to just say the names and you don't have to think about it. Every single time I have to think about like what Xbox was in a generation, I have to think of the actual name. So it's just easier to say PS4, PS5 generation. So no, this isn't any fanboy stuff. It's just easier literally to just say the
I
PlayStation such and
guess.
such generation.
I mean, like what I try to do, and like my brain it still hasn't completely settled into this, but like I guess the eighth gen or ninth gen or like that kind of shit.
Yeah.
But like my brain doesn't really, because like really when I think about it, I think about when I started heavy gaming, and that would have been the N64 PS1 generation. And so I'm like, that's the first generation to me. Or like even the SNES Sega Genesis, that would be the first generation. And so to me, we're on like the sixth generation or something like that. But
Yeah,
like that's
that
kind of
and
how.
people don't really keep up with the generation numbers like that. So, to the average person, when you tell them that, they're not going to know what you're talking about.
Not only that, but like the generations are kind of mixed because like is the Switch is the Switch an eighth generation console or a ninth generation console? Because it came out like the Wii U technically is supposed to be the eighth generation console, and then the Switch was supposed to be the console after that. So for them, that's their ninth gen console. So like it
Not to
gets a
mention
little
that
fuzzy.
Nintendo, not to mention Nintendo consoles are just older than all the other ones too. So they've had way more.
Yeah, which is kind of why when you say the ninth gen, like because the Nintendo was around like NES, so I think they were what third? I think that's third generation. Yeah, NES third, SNES fourth, N64 fifth, GameCube sixth, something like that. Whatever. But like, I guess what I'm saying, like the pro thing, to me, I don't think there should be a pro model this gen, and I think people just kind of assume that there will be because there was one last gen, and they're like, oh well, they got it in last gen, so they just gonna keep doing it as long as they can get away with it. And I'm like, I'm not necessarily like. One of the big reasons why they did a pro model last gen was because the PS4 and the Xbox One X not only had kind of weaker CPUs, which is like a big tech thing that people kept talking about at the time, but it also had like they couldn't do 4K. Now, if in the next 5 years 8K becomes affordable and they're trying to push 8K visuals, then maybe. But I don't think that they're gonna do 8K unless they like put in like DLSS SSS. Uh, I don't think they're gonna do it. Like I don't think they're gonna do 8K unless they can slip in that super sampling type shit. If they can't do that, it's just gonna be too graphically demanding. It's gonna be asking too much of the developers to be like, hey, what if you could run it in 1080p and also 4K and also 8K? Like, hold on, bro. Like, leave
Go
me
ahead
alone.
and add like 2 or 3 more years of development time.
Exactly. Like, go ahead and add another two,
won't,
3
won't get
years.
new games for another decade.
You can start your game on the PS5 era and you'll be ready for the PS7 era. Like, if they still have PlayStations by then, like, you'll be taking that goddamn long. Like, no, that's don't do that. So I don't necessarily, unless we start pushing 8K televisions because they become suddenly affordable. Like 4K was on the verge of affordable when they started selling the PS4 Pro and the Xbox One X. It was on the verge of affordable, and now it is affordable, so it makes sense. But like, I don't think 8K is gonna get there in the next 3 or 4 years. So I'm like, do you need a Pro, or is it just like something that people want because they want consoles to be more like easier to use PCs? So Terrence, do you think that there'll be Pro models this coming gen or this gen?
I don't think so. Like, just I agree 100% with your reasoning. It's like the only reason the pro models existed was because the upgrade from 1080p to 4K or even just 2K, the 1440p. There's no 6K or like 8K that's just available like that we're using at this point. I mean, most people, I guess people are starting to transition to 4K TVs. Like I didn't tell you all this, but I actually, along with the PS5, I upgraded my TVs because there's no reason to get a next gen system and still have a 1080p TV. Although my 1080p TV was just fine. Like I still like it, but I just felt like might as well just go ahead and future proof myself for the rest of the decade. But yeah, I have a 4K TV now, and I can't imagine trying to buy an 8K TV because if I were to pretty much I'd be like doubling the price of what I just paid. And one of the 4K TV that I got, it was on sale. It's one of the more popular 4K TVs right now, and I think it was really on sale just because Amazon lowered the price due to like Prime Day. And I'm pretty sure after Prime Day is done, like, and we go into like August and September, they'll go back to like the real price. In fact, it's starting to. I noticed the model that I was following, it was previously like in the 800 somewhere, and then it like kind of climbed down, and now that people have started to catch on to the deal, it started to climb back up, and that was just for like a 48 inch. Like if we're talking like bigger TVs, like shoot, you're going to come even more out of pocket. So people aren't buying 8K TVs like that because people don't really have 4K TVs like that. So asking if we're going to get a pro model, I feel like you're trying to like you're trying to play checkers when nobody else owns a checkerboard. It's like, what are you doing? I don't know. That might be a weird analogy, but just
I think what you wanted was you trying to play chess and everybody else is playing checkers, and it's not gonna you're not gonna get ahead. Like you just look dumb. Like you trying to get too far ahead of everybody. Like
yeah, I guess that's probably the better way of putting it.
When you get too far ahead of the curve, you don't look smart. You actually look dumb. Yeah. Like when it's one thing to be ahead of the curve and everybody can see you ahead of the curve, but when it looked like you're not even on the same track, everybody's like, bro, what are you doing? And I feel like if you try to do 8K a little too soon, everybody be like, bro, for what?
Yeah. And so what I do think is if we do get another model, I think we'll just get slim models. And the PS5, I mean, it desperately needs like a slimmer model. This thing is
fat
huge.
Ass console.
Yeah, it's a huge ass console.
Big ass router.
It's about as big as like the jokes of what was it, like the Atari 7200 and like a lot of those bigger systems back then that look like friggin' VCRs. That's pretty much what the PS5 is like. And now if they do make a slim model, I could see that happening. Well, first off, they have to have what we have now readily available before they make any more models. So that's the thing. People are trying to think about slims and pros, and it's like you don't even have the original just readily available yet. There's no point in like upgrading or like making a new console when you hadn't even made the original readily available. So I give it maybe till like, this is me, let's see, I'd say 2025 or 2026, maybe then a slim, just because even next year, if the console starts getting readily available, it'll then be at the point where it's okay. Now we have like our stock of PS5s and Series X's just kind of like out there like that. So that's good. And then maybe they can like focus on, like I guess like they'll be in the lab kind of like focusing on how can we upgrade it or make it even better. And maybe they'll spend like the latter half of 2023 or 2024 doing that. And then maybe like, I don't know, like holiday 2024 going into 2025, maybe then they'll announce like a slim model. Like this is me totally like just spitballing it. I have no idea what they're going to do, but that's kind of my guess, is that if there is going to be a new model of the next gen consoles, it's going to have to be a slim version. I just don't think a pro model is going to be a thing because there's nothing pro right now that they can do to warrant that kind of upgrade. So yeah, unless just something changes drastically in the next like 2 years, I just don't see a pro model being a thing this generation.